Hello. I'm Miles McCoy here with TV Ayrshire at one of Scotland's last surviving Golden Age cinemas, which we have been granted special access to so that we can see the facilities that haven't been seen by the public in over half a century. Movie theatres were the place to be for your dose of the silver screen when the sensation swept the nation in the late 19th and early 20th century. However, when the excitement around cinema began to dwindle, little did we know that Ayrshire's cinematic landscape would become barren. However, then the unlikeliest of comeback stories happened, one that was silently years in the making, brought cinema back to the people of Scotland's southwest coast. Shh. Sorry! The Prestwick Broadway Cinema. From the early days of kinetoscope and the travelling Lumiere picture shows of the 1890s, to the golden boom of Hollywood and red carpet showcases of the 1930s, picture halls became a staple of towns and cities galore. Movies went from being short 5-minute affairs that defied belief to feature-length tales of love and conquest. The soundtracks went from live piano accompaniments over the on-screen silence to an integrated soundscape that was mixed to perfection. What started as a black and white exhibition soon exploded into Technicolor, just like the story of cinema itself, and the story of the cinema we'll be looking at today. In the early 1930s, cinemas started becoming a major attraction, contributing heavily to the economy and assisting in making virtual performance more of a pop culture phenomenon. And the Broadway brought a great financial boost to the local economy in Prestwick. One ticket, please.
That's for you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ticket, sir. Thank you very much, and you'll need these.
Would that not do the...
I'm afraid not.
Worth a try.
Yes, thank you very much.
Hiya.
Straight to the auditorium. Thank you.
The visionary behind the hall's construction was the well-respected London-born architect and former World War II ambulance worker Alistair Gladstone MacDonald, who was the eldest son of Scottish politician and the UK's first ever Labour Prime Minister, James Ramsay MacDonald. Although he studied architecture in London, Alistair did spend time in the US learning their style of building structures, and he was mostly familiar with designing skyscrapers. But with time, he was known for designing newsreel cinemas within London Waterloo and Victoria train station. And it wasn't too long before he set his sights on the cities of Scotland for his designs. Although his sketches for cinemas in Scotland's capital never came to fruition, that didn't stop them from finding life elsewhere, such as the town of Elgin, just 5.5 miles away from Lossiemouth, his father's hometown up in Moray. Ayr had an abundance of cinemas, but Prestwick only had one, the Picture House, also known as the Bug Hut, which was opened in 1914. However, in 1934, it was time for Prestwick to gain a new cinema, and so, on April the 29th, 1935, with a ceremony held by the incumbent Provost of Prestwick, the Broadway Cinema opened its doors for the very first time, with a charm all of its own. I met with Kyle McFarlane, a historian for the Friends of the Broadway Prestwick, to give me a tour of the historic place and tell me more about this beautiful building's original decor.
Cinema with a charm all its own, it was called. Ayrshire's luxury super cinema, so immediately it was one of the largest cinemas in Ayrshire when it did open, with the capacity of 1,060 in this auditorium that we're sitting in at the moment. First film was The Barretts of Wimpole Street as well, and essentially after that the Broadway thrived all the way through the golden age of cinema. We even had celebrity visits from Sir Harry Lauder for a charity event during the war. Bob Hope played to US servicemen during World War II as well. We even had Vivian Blaine, who starred in Guys and Dolls alongside Frank Sinatra and Marlon Brando. She visited in 1947, so it had a very glamorous history, but also felt really connected to the community all the way through up until the 60s as well. All of the Prestwick High School, as it was known at the time, all of their prize givings took place in the auditorium as well.
The original auditorium could sit just over 1,000 people, making the Broadway a smashing success upon opening. The best thing about the Broadway was just how cheap it was. with the cheapest seats at the front being only sixpence, and then the most expensive seats in the circle lounge being 1 shilling. So you weren't out of pocket to purchase an evening of escapism. And the children weren't forgotten about either, as Saturdays were designated specifically for the Mickey Mouse Club! And so for nearly 30 years, cinema stood as the dominant form of entertainment, providing a pivotal distraction from the blues of daily life. War had come and gone, the Commonwealth had lost 3 of its kings, and the Great Depression and stock market crash had drove people out of work and unable to afford the necessities. So with Broadway providing cheap entertainment, especially for the kids, it was a godsend to those who needed it most. Kennedy and King's assassinations, Beatlemania, the civil rights movements, Mandela's imprisonment, Churchill's funeral, England's World Cup victory, James Bond, the Berlin Wall's construction, the moon landing, and Marilyn Monroe's scandalous death, all powerful characteristics of one of the most defining decades in modern history, the swinging 60s, which gave way to the rise of a new craze that would become the first nail in the coffin of cinema. With the rising popularity of television, people no longer had to leave the house, nor did they have to pay for an evening of entertainment. Yeah, and that was because television could be watched almost all day long and had various options for viewing at the single turn of a dial. I mean, don't get me wrong, people still attended cinema viewings and it became a fun night out, but it didn't feel so special anymore. Cinema had lost its status as the dominant form of entertainment, and it lost it to the sensation of television. For the first time in its history, the Broadway underwent a redecoration as it fell to the same fate that other former film theatres suffered. It became a bingo hall due to its feverish popularity. The Broadway was still used for events and film screenings, but the viewings started to become few and far between, and by 1966, the Broadway had fallen into becoming a full-time bingo hall.
There was one last attempt to bring cinema back in 1976. It was the grandson of the original managing director J.C. Sword, a Mr. John Sword, that attempted it, but the landscape just wasn't quite right. So the last film was The One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest on the 20th of November 1976. So the Broadway's not been a cinema for almost half a century now. It's been 49 years.
By 1981, the cinema was brought over by the Sheeran family and repurposed as the Broadway Leisure Centre, before being renamed the Prestwick Leisure Centre. Part of the repurposing meant removing the facade at the front and minimalising the exterior to nothing. The interior faced great changes too. The staircase and upper balcony were blocked off as the main foyer was made into an arcade. The rear stalls were walled off and made into a pool room, and the stage, screen and proscenium were demolished to make way for squash courts and a gymnasium. Most of the original features were covered up. Fortunately, these architectural features are to be restored.
Welcome to the cafe, or it's called the Tea Room.
Wow.
So straight away you've got original wallpaper from the 1930s clock on the wall. It's been 5:30 for the last 50 years. You've also the golden pyramid cornicing that's of course emblematic of the camels in the auditorium as well. And actually if you come this way, this was even the wee kitchenette for the tea room. So you've got the dumbwaiter at the back, that went down to the main kitchen that was down below.
How we get back downstairs?
Yeah. So basically the tea room was operated by Gardner's of Prestwick, which was a really famous baker back in the day. Many people will be familiar with the name. So Gardner's had the Broadway's tea room, and they had the original sweetie shop, which was connected to the kitchen that supplied us. And there was even a direct staircase as well, that's now a stairway to nowhere.
In April of 2023, after submitting grant and funding applications and years spent in negotiations with Buzzworks to purchase the building from them, the Friends of the Broadway Prestwick announced their intention to bring cinema back to Prestwick and revive the Broadway cinema. And on the 29th of April in 2024, 89 years to the day of the Broadway's opening, the cinema entered full community ownership.
Did you enjoy the film?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Would you like to see the projectors?
Yeah, no, that'd be great,
Right, let's go. Yeah, if you want to follow on.
And now we're here in the projector room where the magic happens. So, I mean, these are just gorgeous machines, can I just say. Tell us a bit about these.
Yeah, of course. So these are, the Broadway's projectors that have been here since not just One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest showed, but long before that. They're a little bit of a Frankenstein model, so there's elements here that are still fully original to the 30s. The actual projectors themselves, so that's the projector heads at the front and the lamps. They come in 1956 as a wee bit of an upgrade that the Broadway got. So they're Gaumont Cayley Type 20s, and this is the reason in here that the Broadway's projectors are one of the rarest in the country. If we are able to get these working again, then we do believe that these will be the only carbon arc projectors operational in the UK, maybe even further afield, maybe even Europe. And the technology essentially is like welding. It's two carbon rods, carbon arcs, that get struck together and they burn. And they burn incredibly bright and incredibly hot. So that's what gives you your light that then shines through the open dowser there at the front, through the film and onto the screen. And again, the vision is that all of this equipment is hopefully going to be fully restored at some point.
The Broadway is working towards reopening its doors soon, and they have some big plans for when they do. Kind of in broader terms, when it comes to the Friends of the Broadway, what is your kind of grander mission for this beautiful old building?
So we want to reopen the cinema, but we want to open in stages, and what we want to effectively become is a kind of flexible space, a community space, which would be cinema, hopefully live music, potentially comedy, potentially theatre, and a cafe and a kind of community hub. And the idea is that we would hope to soon be able to welcome the community back into the building.
To join the Friends of the Broadway Cinema Prestwick, to receive regular updates or to look at their prospective opening times, simply head to www.broadway.scot or look at their social media pages. Remember to like, share and subscribe for more content from the Ayrshire Film Company and TV Ayrshire, including more episodes of History of Ayrshire, sports coverage and news from up and down the Ayrshire coast. Let us know if you ever attended a screening, played bingo or chanced your luck with the machines here, and let us know what memories you have of the Broadway. Thanks for watching!